virtual copy of your backup straight off, and you can start using a 10 terabyte database in 5 minutes. And it does not take more than 2 or 3 gigabytes as against terabytes. So if you are into QA development, you don't have to wait for 1 day for your beloved DBA to give you a restore. You can actually do it yourself, and you can do it in less than 5 or 10 minutes. Definitely got to try. So basically we help you obtain the infrastructure sprawl, DR. If you have a database data center here in Washington DC and a failover in Denver, for example, it would take you approximately 5 minutes to failover, tops. Okay, that's for my company. So why do we want to be a PM? Isn't the DBA job enough for us to keep you busy nights, days, weekends, correct? But then remember, it's Steve Jones's session today. Who was there in Steve Jones's session today? Quite a few of you, right? Okay. So what he said was, how do you get that promotion out of your boss, right? Because they generally won't promote you, because if you're going to just do your normal day-to-day stuff, then anybody can do it right off the cuff. Even a college graduate, because what's the fundamental rule in any Microsoft application if you're stuck, other than Google? Yeah, reboot, restart, and whatever, right? Reinstall, correct? But there is one more thing. Whenever in doubt, right-click, right? For most Microsoft products, if you're in doubt, just right-click. So it helps. So you have to raise your game much higher. Now, which companies here is infrastructure or the IT team actually treated as a business partner and not as an expense center? I knew the answer. So that's why I actually asked the question. So what happens is that if you have any infrastructure project to run, what are the chances that they are actually going to give you a project manager? Most likely no, because see, that doesn't face the customer, so they are least interested in actually providing you with resources to go ahead and let you go forward. So what do? That's why you want to drive your own project, because now you can run what somebody else would have done for you, and very begrudgingly you would have done it, or he or she would have done it for you, and that's not fun. So that's one of the reasons now you are in charge and you know what goes in technically. So what else do we need to master? Do we need to be a certified PM? No, really not. So one of the fundamental questions is that I'm not even a PM certified. How can I become a project manager? If you start treating every single task like a project, you will become a project manager to yourself. And then getting certified is easy. But if you try to first get certified and then try to get a PM job, not fun. What do we really need for running a simple project? Any idea? Come on guys, can we make it interactive? It will be fun. Scope, okay. So she's now talking like a PM, okay.
An idea of what you're wanting to improve.
Okay, so.
Requirements.
Sorry? Requirements. Requirements, right? Okay. Anything else?
Assemble a team to work on your project.
Yeah, so people, right? Okay. So see, this makes sense. People, that's one of the first things you need, right? Software or some other type of resources, maybe hardware or software, right? Ah, you did not. Can I do that now? Yeah, it's okay. You can knock from inside, no problem. And you need some processes, right? Because without a due process, it's very difficult for you to go ahead and complete your project. Documents. What documents do you typically need? Yeah, so let's say our DBA projects, right? Typical database projects, upgrading my server to SQL 2012. Is that okay for you, or 2014? 14? Okay, let's do 14, right? You really need a project scope and all that for that. Generally, if you are not a full-blown project manager. Now, but I'll tell you what to do. So let's go ahead. And then in the end, we will actually go through all this live as we speak, and everybody will be contributing to this project plan right here, right now. Okay, and together we will build a project plan that will be taken by you to your companies, and if you need to use that for upgrading your SQL Server to whatever, you can do that, right? And I forgot your name, buddy. What's your name?
Scott.
Scott is going to be doing the writing because this is just about all I have by way of PowerPoint. So do not get disappointed, and in the end we'll try to summarize and take some questions. Sounds like a good plan, everybody? Oh, great. No, you can sit there because you are going to be driving now. What? Okay. So this is roughly how I treat a project plan. If you actually look at the Microsoft project, pretty much looks like this, doesn't it? How many of you have actually worked with a Microsoft project software? Most of you have, right? Okay. So as you can see, there's the step ID. Why do we need a step ID? Come on, Excel gurus.
Order?
Sorry?
Order? Prerequisites?
No, I mean, prerequisites, no, that was not the idea. When you actually print a
Referencing
spreadsheet-
a task.
Yeah, when you print a spreadsheet, it actually never prints the column number. So the ideal thing to do is here. And then for some reason, if you want to go ahead and add 1 to it, you can create a formula and then it's easier that way. So I chose to just do this, so if you have to ever click and go back and forth, then this is an easier way to do it. Step name, okay? And what I've done is, for you, is divide the project implementation into 3 parts. The pre-implementation, the day of implementation, and can you scroll down, Scott? Post-implementation. Sounds like a plan? 3 things? Okay. So what is the first thing we do? So let's go ahead and start here. Step ID 1. What is the first thing will we do?
Resources?
Correct. So we come here, team. So what will you put in your team? Name of the person, what role they are going to play, cell number and home number, right? So you'll have about 10 or 15 people. Who do you think you're most likely going to miss putting down on this list here?
Yourself?
Yes, number 1, you almost always forget that, but number 2?
The customer.
Customer would be a business team, right? So he would be there, he/she. I mean, I'm using he only just because I'm a he. But no, actually, the vendor. Whenever you embark upon some upgrade project like that, make sure that you have all the contact information pertaining to the vendor ahead of time. And if your implementation day is 2nd January 2015, make sure that he or she is available for you to support on the day of implementation. In my previous job, for example, almost 95% of our applications were third-party applications. In that case, you have to have something to go with that. So team, right? What else? Documentation. Yeah. This is the documentation tab.
And also impacted areas, contact information of.
So the
The
team,
teams
right?
that will
Basically,
be
it's the
impacted.
business leaders,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
What is the job of a project manager? What is the 95% responsibility of a project manager?
Communication.
And
Communicate with.
95% of a project manager's job, communication. Seriously, if you are doing anything else but communication, including creating spreadsheets and all that, then you are wasting a lot of time. If you are not planning and keeping everybody informed, you are not doing your job. So what sort of documentation can you have here? For example, you can just have a Word document that has the release notes of your application. Just go ahead, copy and paste it here. So everything is available in one place. And of course, being a DBA, you'll be prudent enough to back up this spreadsheet all the time, right? And keep it on your thumb drive, and all the passwords and other information will be stored on Facebook, right? Well, everybody agreed, I'm happy. Cool. And then, let's go ahead and the software too, right? You just click here. For example, this is the tab which you can use to document links to every single software that you need. For example, in my current job, my previous job, all our software came out of a specific server which was meant for IT to use. But on the night of implementation, which would be like what, 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, believe me, your memory is not as good despite 20 cups of coffee. So you want to go ahead and document everything that you want here. Where is my SQL Server 2014 coming out of? Where is the license file? What is the license number? The upgrade folder for your application. For example, if SQL 2014, it has to be followed by the upgrade of your application, that needs to be here too, right? So make sure that under the software, you have a complete list of what you need, okay? And so far, what are we doing? Basically, we have not even begun the software or the upgrade project. So now, let's go to steps. Okay, Scotty? Beam me up. Cool. So what is the first thing that we would do? And it's okay if you write something now, we have to go up and back and forth, change the sequence, that's fine too. But what is the first thing you do? So get an approval of some sort, right? Okay, so get an approval, right? And then you can write all description that you need to write over here, correct? Okay. Then who is the point of contact? There will be multiple people, right? Okay. And start time, end time. Chances are, before you go to the next one, this would have already been achieved. So status is done, right? What is the second thing?
Notify all the stakeholders?
Yes. So when you are going to do it, for example, right? So that would be your second step. And if you come across a step that you mentioned right now, which is not in the correct order, you can always change it. And that's the beauty of project and Excel. Right? Notification, right? Yeah, just make some simple thing, we'll fill it up later. I'll do it later at home, and I will upload it by Monday.
Yeah, notify stakeholders.
Yeah, notify the stakeholders. That's fine. What is the next step? Go on, Todd. I can pull them up at the time. So, what else can we do?
Custodian work is.
Before you do that, would you not want to ask the vendor if it is okay to use this SQL Server?
But you do that before you get the approval, right?
Okay, so let's put it up there.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So just put it now, we will arrange it all in the end, so it's easier that way, right? So asking the vendor if it is okay, right? Getting a vendor approval too, right?
That's part-
Usually I have seen that, one second. I have seen that if you ask the management, they say, oh, is vendor okay with it? That's the first question they ask. So
Yeah.
that's why, first you want to say is, go ahead and get a vendor approval, how do you want to go about it and so on, right? Okay. What else? You were saying something, sorry.
Is it never became almost the upgrading to SQL Server 2014? What?
14.
14, what?
Correct, because along with your SQL Server, the SQL Server hosts a series of databases. They will all be pertaining to a set of applications, correct? So if that application happens to be, I don't know, give me a name, CRM, right? Say, then you will have to get approval from the vendor. Geez, does your software even work with SQL 2014?
So the assumption would be is that if someone says that but somebody else.
Okay, so if it is not a vendor, then you can check with your app dev team, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So she's saying if it is not a third party, then what do we need to do? Okay.
It's about compatibility.
Correct.
So
And we have had so many cases in our company where we could not update from SQL 2005 to SQL 2008 because they did not have the resources. And that's one of the things that I spoke to Microsoft people when they were in the SQL user group meeting in Boston, is that instead of pushing your product onto end users, you should also try working with these kind of vendors who are pathetically behind on their infrastructure upgrades. For example, if you have 10 applications out of which 9 don't take the latest version of SQL Server, what is the point of having those kind of applications in-house? So just keep that in mind. After that, what yes?
it's a minor change. I mean, I don't see it as vendor approval. I see it more like support. because they don't have to approve it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So it's
Yeah.
possibly semantics here, but
Yeah, yeah.
generally speaking, yeah, in the sense that vendor, because what has to happen is that if he says, no, I'm not going to do it, I don't allow, we do not support, as you said,
It's
right?
not about support.
Oops, sorry, now it's out of support, then you can't do much. Correct?
Because sometimes management may decide to go in spite of the fact that there is no support. So,
Then what would you like to do? Yes?
The work breakdown structure.
Okay, so WBS, right? Correct? So a WBS or a work breakdown structure or a work breakdown element, how you're going to do that, but what is the first thing now you would like to do? That is too technical, but remember, we are just going from DBA to PM. We can't afford to be so
the
technical.
documentation, you know, whether it is complete or not.
Yeah, which we are going to put here, right, as you
Okay.
come along, right? But my thing would be, how about planning for a,
Budget?
ah,
Oh, okay.
they say, okay, we have $1 million, go ahead and blow it right now. So if that happens, right, then this is one thing that you want to plan, but just hold on to this. Let's go to the next item. I would say, how about planning for having a test environment, right? Test or applications, right? So you know what the step, so there will be a QA manager here or a development manager who will be your point contact for that. And how much time does it take for you to set up that information or that environment and then actually do the testing, correct?
Yeah.
So then, once you are done with this, you do the actual testing, right?
That is
Today I
going to be
spent-
on the day of implementation. I mean, based on my experience.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I was leading a team, you know, developing reports, and when we wanted to upgrade from 2005 to 8, on the day of implementation, you know, we were at work on Saturday testing all the reports. There were like 50, 60 reports, making sure that everything is connected to 2008,
Correct.
and we could pull the data. So that was on the day of implementation. But all the notification took place way in advance, including the dates, exactly when it is going to happen,
Okay.
and what we need to do, and how we need to communicate and all that stuff.
So today, then one thing you want to walk out of this room today is a concept that I have used very successfully in the past 7 years, roughly. Okay? And you will be extremely happy that you are doing it if you are not already doing it. Okay? And I strongly suggest you do that. We will do that at the end of the session. Okay? Or maybe just over here is when we will start doing it. So test environment is set up. Now what do we do? Test. Right? So what are you going to test? Where are your test plans? Applications testing, right? So you can actually go ahead and list out all the applications that need to be tested. And within each of the application, for example, let's say CRM is one of your application, and that's either Goldmine or Salesforce or something like that, right? So if that is the case, who is the owner? When are they starting to test? And are you going to test it in production now? No, that will be only on the day of implementation, right? Okay, so CRM Dynamics, for example, that's one application.
Reports.
Okay, so second is reports, right?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yes, so whenever you are running the test on this, most of it would have been upgraded also. That's what I'm going by, right? Yeah. But you get the idea, right, where we are headed on this. So now you are going to do some bit of testing here, right? Okay. Is this visible to everybody in the back? Otherwise we can actually make it slightly bigger.
I think bigger would be better. I'm kind of getting bored, you know. I'd say it's not
Okay.
What's the hotkey?
See, you see this guy here?
yeah, yes.
I think you have to do this again for every single tab, which kind of irritates the heck out of me, but that's okay. That's just me.
Is that good or more?
Sorry?
Is that good or more?
This
That's
is fantastic.
That is good, right? Yeah, that's
Thank you.
that is, I think I have to. Okay, so let's go back to the steps. Okay, so what would be the next step? By the way, does everything have to end just before the next blue one? So you finish the testing, now what? So UAT, basically acceptance from the users, correct? So getting acceptance from the users for the testing, which I think if the testing is completed, basically it would mean that it is accepted by everybody, otherwise it will keep on going. In a way, right? Okay, so get acceptance. Yeah, but I'm just saying that you can keep on getting as granular as you want without burning anybody out. And the more systematic you are ahead of the implementation date, the earlier, the better off you will be. Okay?
Test rollback.
Yeah. So decision point, right? Go, no go, correct? Okay. So in your Microsoft project, you have decision points, right? In Excel, unfortunately, you can't have. So, but once you say, for example, you got the approval, why worry about it, right?
Well, testing the rollback to make sure that if something happens, the process to actually roll it back will work.
I have
So that's
actually,
why-
correct, we have never done that. Any of our applications prior to this. Believe it or not, because our testing has been absolutely thorough. And if at all, there are some use cases that were left behind, and that person is answerable for that, and then we just go ahead with a known issue and then move on. So we have never actually had to roll back a tested application. Okay. So, but say for example, if you have to do it, then we can document that.
I've always got to have all my rollback documented and tested.
Okay.
Convert and never go for it.
So what I do is, say for example, if this was a single tenant database server, then I would have that, okay, is there a go, no go? If there is a go, then we continue, otherwise if no go, go back over here and start all over again, right? That's it. Okay, so after this, what do we do? Or what would I do? Yeah. Fix a date for implementation, right? That's the number one thing, right? So if you are going to do fixing the date, what do you need to take into consideration for that?
Holidays, availability.
Holidays, availability of the vendor, right? For example, that's something we already spoke. What else?
And regarding the teams, who is going to be available, who is not going to be available.
Correct. And
So
also,
the time.
I mean, yeah, you would like to do it on December 31st because that is perfect. But really, is it the right time to do it? Correct. So is everybody generally acceptable? I mean, accepting of that information or that particular date, then you can do it. Otherwise, you can't, right? So you have to fix that time as to when to do it. For example, if 31st March is your financial books closing, then you don't want to do it till 15th of April or something like that, right? So just keep that in mind too. Okay. And after that, what do we do? You will have to procure, make sure that you have necessary hardware and software that is actually going to come, because see, they have given you the approval to go ahead, but nowhere here have we actually made sure that we deliver. We have a space holder here for ordering hardware, software, and if any contractors are needed on an interim basis, right? So somewhere here you will have to provide for purchase of some additional resources that can be an important part of your project. Yes, sir.
My understanding is that you would do that before you send any notification to stakeholders, because in the background you need to get those things done. In the absence of those.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
you can do it here or you can do it here.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
once they have given you, you always have some or the other environment in which you can start doing your testing. Correct? So while the testing is going on, in the background you could be working on procuring the hardware. Because hardware, how much time does it take, Don? 10, 8 to 12 weeks?
Yeah, depends.
Generally that much, right? But sometimes you get it in like a couple of weeks if it's a rush order, or just go over to back to that Best Buy and pick up a server. But you can't always do that, so you have to plan for that. So just put it as a placeholder and we can arrange it later on, right? Okay. So procuring hardware and software, that is necessary. I have a very dumb question, but how long do I have today?
Till 2:45.
2:45, right? Okay. Have a lot of time, no worries. So after this, what would you do? I think this is pretty much all we really need to do ahead of time, right? So now, let's go ahead and do something for the day of implementation. There'll be a lot of information. So this is just a placeholder. So what is the number one thing
see two separate things here on the day of implementation.
Correct.
One is the DBA team, working on,
Mhm.
and also making sure that whoever is supposed to be there, calls in.
Okay,
Like
so-
reports team calls in and says, yes, I'm here.
So
And
basically,
then we test.
send out a notification of the application being down. Right, some sort of a user communication that between this time and this time, the application will be down, and the resource manager or whoever is the project manager will make sure that all the resources are in play and that they are dialed into the conference call or the WebEx at the time, right? But the first thing before you start working on it is you have to send out a notification saying that, okay, we are going to start the work now, right? And whenever it will come up, it will come up. Whatever is your protocol in the company is what you follow. So number one, sending out notifications, Scott. If anybody else wants to go ahead and take up Scott's job, please go ahead and do it. Okay, so number two, what after that, what would we do? The job, right?
Yeah, conference call.
Absolutely correct. Exactly. So, and what would that entail? Doing the job means basically do the upgrade, correct? Okay. How will you break it down on the day of production upgrade? Okay, so go ahead and install. So you are assuming that we have a Windows server rolling with, correct? So somebody, now do we actually do this here or do we do it here?
Installation, I never did it, but, probably you would do it ahead of time.
When you test it, just do everything in production.
Okay, so this is what is the difference between what I have done in the past and what I have seen others do. For an application upgrade project like this, what we create is called the go live environment. Okay, so what's a go live environment? This is just a phrase that I got at a company which starts with an H with a B. It has only 2 letters in its name, but I'm not supposed to do it out. So a go live environment would be that you actually use a copy of a production database on a server which is going to be your production server in the future. Okay? So for example, say application 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 applications is something that are going to be tested. So you create a brand new SQL server with Windows operating system on it. Restore all the 4 production databases to this server. Start testing everything against that server, which would mean what? Jobs, security, linked servers, for example, right? And the application's own peculiarities, which are listed in this, right? This is what we are going to do. There's one thing that none of you mentioned, which I would have loved to hear from the DBAs in the room especially, is having some sort of a benchmark. Because if you ever look at a post-project or postmortem after a project, always the users say the application is slow, right? So that is why if you have a benchmark and then you have it compared, and during your UAT when the user acceptance is happening, you have them sign off against each and everything. Okay, so the first screen comes after 15 seconds. Please sign it off. Okay. The next one comes after 45 seconds. Sign it off and so on. So definitely make sure that you have some sort of a baseline to record against the new software. So you are installing this, but on the go live, you have now got your operating system, you got your databases restored, now you're doing all the tests. On the day of the implementation, what would you do then? Can I use something here?
Okay,
If you can't see it, let me know. Yeah.
well, install operating system database and see whether applications have the connections established,
Correct.
and then let people test those
Test it out, right?
applications.
So what is the advantage of doing that?
You just have to do a restoring at the implementation.
Correct. So come implementation day, right? All you have to do is restore the production database. For which, how much time can you save by doing what? If your database is 1 terabyte, how will you handle that on the day of implementation? You really don't want your application to be down by 1 week or at least 1 day just because you are doing an upgrade, right? So how would you handle that? Log ship, or alternately as a standby database. While they are testing on one database, restore a full database the previous day, the differential in the morning, and then a couple of transaction logs just at the time when you are going to bring it live. So now what is happening is, you are not, on the day of implementation, you don't have to wait for your restore. You have already tested the name change of the server, remember? Because your original server was called SQL 1, the next one is now called SQL 1.1, for example, because it's a new server. Now everything that needs to be tested is already being tested. All you now need is a copy of the production database. And that also, if you have a full followed by differential and transaction logs, I can assure you, you can actually go live within 10 or 15 minutes. So that's the biggest advantage of having the go live environment. And what do you do with the old server?
Stop the SQL services and go to sleep.
Two things, right? You can do two things there for this. Give it back to your infrastructure people. They will worship you. You'll have got a friend in your infrastructure team forever. Oh my God, a DBA who actually returned a server. When did that last happen? Never, right? So try to do that, give them back the server. Or alternately, now that this is going great, right? You go back to that server, upgrade that to the latest version of production, whatever it is, and start using that server as your test server. So what happens to the original test server then? Oh, we give it back to the infrastructure team. Right? They would love to have it back. Also, you can pre-gain licenses and you don't have to worry about it, right? So if you are not doing a go live installation, then you will go ahead and install operating system and maybe somewhere here. Now you are doing the testing. The production testing. Can you bring up this one here? The applications testing. So see, I have provided for a production test. So whatever you are testing over here, once we cut over live, that is when you want to go ahead and have somebody sign off on all these two. So on CRM, oh yeah, everything worked, this worked, this worked, this worked, this worked, and so on. This is the start time, this is the end time, who done it, and everything. So now suddenly you have a document which has got all the information that is there. Now, there's something that you could have forgotten, but it is not a showstopper. How would you handle that? Or what do you call it? It's called a day 2 item, right? Day 2 means it's now happy in production, but you need to do something over there. What are the action items?
You show all your logins.
Yeah, so I mean, whatever testing you are doing, but you could not catch that in testing, you could not catch it in UAT, and you could not even catch it till you made a decision on production as to whether you want to go live or not. At that time, if you say, yeah, we want to go live, but we have the following issues. What are the number 2 issues there? Number 1 issue? Support, right? How many of you would have actually proactively trained your application support team prior to the release so that they are available on day 2 to take calls? Definitely make sure that that happens, okay? Number 2 could be, you know what, when I click on this link somehow doesn't work, but I'm fine because we changed the name of the server. How do we handle that? We somehow missed this. So you want to go ahead and make this as an information over here. And if it is a vendor problem, then you want to take it to the vendor, because vendor would be with you on the call at the time, so he's aware, but you then need to go ahead and assign this and prioritize it and take it accordingly. Okay? So far so good?
Yes.
Okay. So let's come back to the steps.
Can I say something here?
Yeah, sure.
In the notification that you're going to send to stakeholders, you know, the information that you include is critical. like links and server names, whatever information is needed for application folks to
Correct.
establish the links. That's critical. I mean, that is something that I had issues with in the beginning. They're
Yes,
not
I-
giving us enough information. We saying, well, we can establish connection, and then they do, well, we did not send the information, they will go into the information, and then, it gets fixed.
How many of you have more than 2,000 end users in your company? Just show of hands. 2, 3, 4 people. Mr. Razadowski here, maybe 5 people. So if you have noticed, these kind of organizations have favorites and these kind of links as a part of the desktop engineering team, right? So they will have a script. So moment you log on next day, they would have already gotten the upgrades about with the new links and everything that pertains to the new release. Because remember, you have already tested it. Somebody in the training department has made sure that they communicate with the desktop team. If not, then you have to do this. Who are the people who will suffer?
End users.
End users who did not log out, right, from their system prior to the upgrade night are the ones who come the next morning and they say, oh geez, this link doesn't work anymore. Yeah, because you didn't log out. We told you expressly to log out. So you will be forced to log in next morning, which means your logon script will be loaded with the new thing and all. So what do we do? Oh, just reboot your machine and you'll be happy, right? So remember that. So what you said about the links is extremely crucial. So if they are changing, make sure that you have that as a part of the notification, that please remember you have to log out, or these are the changes. This is the set of release notes that go with this. If you have any question, here's the team. Following people will be available for your day 2. Make sure that if you have any difficulties contacting, doing whatever you were doing before, go ahead and contact these people and they will be glad to help.
Yes, I'm going to say that we aspire the process of communication is to have a team who all the data for every all this sort of stuff.
That's what we are doing. That's what we are doing as a DBA, because the company doesn't have money to provide you the
What I'm
project.
saying is that sometimes that's the biggest problem we face. Every time you upgrade the end user forget to log on the system, so you come back the next day, you see that's something you can designate somebody on the team to log in, remind them to log on, even to send an email to
Okay, so what she's saying is that there has to be a coordinator with the business users who would force them to log out. Seriously? I mean, I am telling you, even if you go to their desk with a gun in your hand, okay, and I can assure you that there will be 5 Johnnies there who would not have done so.
That's the biggest problem.
And you really can't do much about it, because, I mean, even when we changed in one of my previous jobs, we changed from like domain, simple empty domain, to an Active Directory model. Express notification, okay? We went around the desks telling them, please log out before you go, okay? And we were only 220 people at the time, out of which more than 40 people did not get the Active Directory controls till approximately 15 days, because they say, oh, I won't do it. So, okay, now what happens is that I can actually forcefully reboot their machines, but then you don't know what is going on their machine at the time. So if they set up a process, then you don't want to have them, come and yell at you. Otherwise, there is a PowerShell script which can shut down every single machine in your domain. I have that script. If somebody's nice to me, I can use it. So it is possible, you can do that. Okay, so can we come back to the steps? So far install is doing, we are then going to do the testing in production, right? Remember we went to this tab and found out that whatever we needed to do for testing, right? And that was done, right? Okay, so after testing, what do we do? Okay, or that's the point in time, you reconvene all the business people who are on the phone at the time, on the conference call. Guys, yay or nay? Go or no go? Correct? If it's a go, continue with what? Anybody here? Go. Yeah, that it's successful, right? Okay, so say 5 would be a decision point, Scott? 5, yeah, go, no go, right? For example. An average single application upgrade, this runs into approximately 4 to 6 pages. So I have just oversimplified, but as long as you can walk away with 2 things, that yes, you can do it using an Excel, yes, you can do it by being systematic, and yes, you can actually go away with a live environment, go live environment, you would have achieved what you really started to achieve from the go live. And number 6, make sure, no seriously, this is something that I have seen happen so many times, and I hope it never happens to you. Make sure that the jobs that you set for running on nights, could be backup, maintenance jobs, even pushing your information out to your data warehouse or getting feeds from the vendors, all that works. So that is the time when you have to stop being a project manager and go back to being a dumb DBA and make sure you check out everything there is to check out before you say, yes, this is happening, correct? Okay. So,
DBAs are not done.
are there any other categories? I mean, that's what they call me. Oh, you are just a dumb DBA. So I'm like, okay, cool. That's a standard DBA joke, so I'm sorry. So after this, you send out the communication, right? That the upgrade is successful and so on. Part of professional development. Okay, everybody here who was here in the Steve Jones session, you were there too, right? Okay. If you are finished at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't wait till 8 o'clock to send out this information. Bad move. Why? One, because the customer really needs to know that while they were watching movies or were sleeping, you are working your butt off trying to make sure that they have minimal downtime. So if you're done at 3 o'clock, send out the email at 3:01 or even plan it to be sent out at 4 o'clock. Get some extra cookie punch, who cares, right? So after that, make sure that you communicate. But number 2, if they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and they don't see a completion information, there'll be panic setting in, right? So make sure that it will serve you 2 purposes. So communicate, that will be after that. Now what do we do? Everybody's having a beer party, yeah?
Basically with the user community, it's my experience. Tell them what you're going to do, do it,
Correct.
and once you do it, tell them what you did.
Correct.
Kind of like, okay.
In our public speaking, that's when I teach
So-
public speaking to the children. That's what I tell them. Tell, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them. Then tell them, then tell them what you just told them, right?
Yeah.
So something like that. So that communication, again, it comes down to 95% of what you're supposed to do. So definitely make sure that this has been completed. And then if you have any questions, please feel free. If you are, what is the difference between a good project manager and a great project manager?
The great project manager also requires
Okay, so what I would do, that would be a good project manager. Or a great project manager would actually himself or herself talk to all your stakeholders and check with them personally. Hi guys, how's it going, right? So they don't feel that this guy comes to me only when he needs money and service, right? Definitely. So make sure that you come next day and follow up, right? What else do you do? Second day. Not day 2, second day. After the implementation. Yeah, that comes as a part of the training. So maybe somewhere here, prior to the implementation, we have a customer training?
Yeah, but afterwards, I want most of this production. I mean, when it's been tested, it's tested by the IT folks and everything.
No. And so our question is, what if the end users are tense and very anxious? How would you help them? That is why part of the communication here, somewhere on line number 16, you could put in an extensive user training, correct? And extensive training for the trainers too, by the way, because they need to be able to train the users. So we call them train the trainer and then train the users. That has to happen, and then train your IT staff who's going to support it too. Yes, sir.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, my experience is that if it goes well in the testing environment, it's highly likely it's going to go well in the production.
Yeah, but then there is jokes also on it, right?
Well,
correct.
because you need to test everything in the testing
Correct.
environment,
Absolutely.
including the communication, and so if they are happy with that, then if you follow the same steps, then it's highly
Absolutely.
likely that you're going to be successful.
So everybody get his point? Okay? So that's when you come here, applications testing, make sure that this comes from the user and that you don't dictate this. Okay? That is absolutely crucial, that every single screenshot, if you have, let them be as detailed as possible. Correct? But that all should be in one single spreadsheet. Okay, you have to follow these steps. Oh, but my step number 24 and this whole thing is not working. Let me go to your test plan. There is no step 24. You became lazy after step 23, so much. It's your problem. You can't say that, right? So you say, okay, so, well, we have never tested for this. We have already moved forward. So there are two options, right? We roll back. It'll be your fault, right? Or two, just try to find a workaround till we get a fix either from the user, or it could just be a simple memory change in your SQL server, or transaction log changes or something like that. So, but that is why you need to have this thing very thoroughly documented as to what you are going to do with your application once it has been upgraded, and also make them check the baseline for the timing. So yes, there are chances that the new functionality, along with the new operating system and a new database system, could be slower than usual. But then that is what you have to fight and move on.
I would like to add a point. Somebody raised something related to what if the users are anxious, right?
Correct.
I mean, my take on that would be, it's better to have a conversation ahead of time with the user representatives to make sure what the concerns are and address them then and there, and to prioritize the issues, potential issues, instead of waiting until everything is in production and something that will.
Can we go here, Scott? So maybe just before this, can you scroll it down? Somewhere here, we want to have, of course we can rearrange this, but number one, fix meeting schedules, right? As to whether it's a weekly status meeting or a daily scrum meeting, just to emphasize on what has been achieved in small chunks, so that at the end of the week there is no surprise. Because in a weekly status meeting, there will be significantly higher number of people and higher category of people, right? There will be a set of people in this project status meeting, which will be maybe 2 or 3 pay grades above you. And you really don't want to be ending up bickering in that meeting, oh yeah, you didn't do that. So you iron out all of that during your scrums on a daily basis. What is the other advantage of having a scrum or a daily meeting? Is that you have small chunks and you have small team of people who come and talk about it, right? So everybody knows what's happening. Besides, users love meeting, right? How many DBAs love meetings? Yeah, pretty much. If there are cookies, great. Right? But what do you call, what is the definition of a meeting in DBA language? Seriously? No. They don't feed us. No, it's called the most practical alternative to work. And so, DBAs, you don't want to work, try to set up some meetings and you'll be happy with it. So remember, in the meeting that's what you basically lay the expectations. And if they are participating in here, we had an issue, remember? We had a Windows 7 upgrade, and this gentleman, on the day of the upgrade, he said, oh yeah, I never knew about this feature, for example. And funny thing is that he attended and has been minuted as having attended every single of those meetings where this specific issue has been discussed. If you were on your iPhone, checking your Facebook status during the 15-minute scrum, you can't hold me responsible for what happens to this particular aspect of your project. And that's why very crucial that in your meeting schedules or when you decide the meeting, every single meeting you send out a minute saying who attended the meeting and who did not attend the meeting.
I think one of the benefits to a movie fair is because sometimes you come back to court. So you don't miss requirements. Okay, as you're talking to people, if they at a time you look at documents and the requirement, they might give you everything. You learn that stuff.
No, I didn't get it. Sorry. Can you repeat?
One of the benefit, okay, you mention something but you get a different scenario where you see our independent from their screens and photos and
24.
if you had a weekly status of data, it's a way for you to, it's a win-win situation, you're getting more information, when you start talking to them, you realize,
Correct.
it,
So her point is that if you are bringing this up in the daily meeting, then this would not arise. You'll be surprised how many times people will attend every single meeting yet would not have tested the most obvious thing. Geez, does it encrypt my social security number at rest? The applications should not let a DBA, for example, even read select star from person table from the HR database. You should not be able to read anybody's social security number. If you can, shame on you as a DBA, right? Because that data is now at rest, it should be encrypted, correct? So if they did not check that, there's only so much you can do, right? But that's why you work as a team. Idea is not finger pointing, but okay, yeah, this is what happened. Now how do we handle this, correct? Okay. Next, post-implementation. What do we do? Say, 3 days now gone, it's working great.
Well, the day after, on day one, you should go back and check your logs and everything and make sure
Yeah,
that
that's
what you
one
think.
of the things, yeah. So what you did here, right? You want to also check it here again. So you can just copy and paste this here, Scott. Make sure that everything pertaining to the application is going great too. Okay? Yeah, this one. No, this one. Make sure that all your jobs, etc. are running great. But then, as a DBA, aren't you supposed to do that every day anyways? Right? And this is something that is the first thing that I used to do when I was a DBA. I'm not a DBA anymore, by the way. So, this is the first thing that I would do when I come into my office, along with my cup of coffee, is to make sure that every single database server, although I get automated emails, I would still relentlessly look up every single folder to see if the database backups have happened or not.
Users also just make sure, because you're not always going to see something that they might see.
Correct,
So
and
there's-
that's, remember I said, we need to, okay, not just with the management, but with the end users.
Right.
Bottom line. I want us to go out proactively to them and say, hey guys, how are you doing?
stakeholders in my world.
Yes, stakeholders.
Stakeholders.
Which covers everything, yes sir.
He raised a good point. I would like to add something to that. Being on the other side of the equation,
Correct.
I really appreciated when DBAs reached out to us. Let's
DBAs
say
are
daily
nice
reports,
people.
well, not, daily reports, weekly reports, let's say, we coming in and saying, well, a report is not working versus they identifying and saying, okay, we know that reports are not out there,
Correct.
there is an issue. We appreciated that a lot.
Oh yes, absolutely. So again, being proactive about what you find. And you see 90% of the time, if you go out and tell a user from your side, geez, I screwed up, I'm sorry. right? But we'll fix it as soon as possible. That impact is huge. They will not feel as bad and they will not be as acidic about it as much, right? Number 4, this is fun. Should involve every stakeholder in this step number 4. Ariana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on. Any input from your side, ma'am?
No, I'm just taking it all in.
Oh. Okay. This is very crucial. We do it every time. Yes. And after project review, post-mortem meeting, right? Post-mortem essentially would mean something is dead, right? So I would say after project review and something like that. So post-project analysis or whatever you want to call it. Essentially, you get all the stakeholders together and ask them what went well, what did not go well, right? And the idea is not finger pointing, but the point we made about applications, step number 24 did not work, is something we can actually identify here and say, no, we did not complete the testing process because we did not go down to the level of documentation as much as we should have. Again, it's always we, right? Although heart in heart, you know it's you. But we just say we, right? So this is very crucial, okay? And whatever is the lessons learned out of this, make sure that when you start a new project, that has been taken care of. Okay, that the communication, okay, remember last time we did not test application A, B, C, D, whatever it was. Let's make sure that this doesn't happen. So when you are upgrading to SQL 2016, that would have been taken care of, right? So that would be step 4, right? And then of course, big party follows, provided you have the money for it. Correct? Now, how do you handle day 2 items? Would you handle that as a DBA or would you let somebody else handle it?
It depends on what those day 2 items are.
Okay, so let's go to the day 2 items, right? Example, misdirected links, right? You're not going to fix it, but as a project manager, it's your job to facilitate the solving of this problem, right? Yeah, disgruntled employee left. Okay, so that reminds me, if a pig loses his voice, is he a disgruntled employee? No? Okay.
They left an Easter egg.
No, he's saying this is an problem could be one of the guys was not happy. Yeah, it's just joke.
And Easter eggs basically is maybe pieces of code that will pop up later.
What's Trojan horse is
Yeah,
Right, it doesn't have to be a Trojan horse necessarily, but
something
that's just kind of buried.
How many of you have actually been to the Taj Mahal? The one in India, the real Taj Mahal, not the restaurant or the casino. No, I'm just talking about the Easter egg, right? The emperor who built this, he used to make it, of course, but he had told the architect that once, and all the major artisans, that once they do this, their hands will be chopped off. I'm not kidding, and they could do it, they are emperors, right? So, the architect, he had created a small bug in Taj Mahal, where even today, after 500 years, where the king and the queen's tomb is underneath the grave, the entire Taj Mahal is waterproof, but the water comes and drips right on their tomb. And that was his Easter egg. So people do that all the time. I have seen that. I have seen people actually dropping databases and then dropping the job that drops the database, and to find out how they did this and to catch the culprit, someday come to my class called Database Forensics. I was actually supposed to do it here, but they didn't have 2 sessions for me. So I do it in 2 classes. One is the digital forensics, and then coming down to database forensics, how to trace it back to the exact workstation where a guy, damaged your database and so on. So, questions, comments? Anybody? So, let's go through this. Document your steps. Day 2 items will follow as you go along. Determine the teams, the first thing you want to do. get from users the complete test plans, get the documentation would be whatever you do for your training, your vendors' release notes or your dev department's release notes, and all the software information. Am I forgetting anything by any chance?
Just asking, what if you wanted to focus certain things that change, like, let's say in the database, certain table you were reviewing or something, you wanted to post it on a web or SharePoint platform or software? That's it.
Yeah, so, correct. So when you are sending out, so her question is, what if a lot of what we publish is out on a internal wiki or a SharePoint site? How would you bring that information to the user? So the best thing is when you are communicating your daily meeting input or minutes, that's a good time to include that. So I have now included the minutes at this particular website. So go ahead and refer to it. So get them used to not getting paper minutes every single day or email minutes. Other questions, comments? So thank you all for coming. We are slightly ahead of schedule, but big thanks to Scott for actually and for you. And yeah, please fill in the fill in the feedback. Yeah, thank you. And remember, anybody who doesn't give me full marks, they will not be included.
Thanks. So where do you teach these classes for the database versions?
SQL Saturdays?
Oh, you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can conduct it, if you have a group of people, I can conduct it over
What about
WebEx.
past DC?
Fast
What are the
DC, okay,
meetings?
so here's the thing. This session on database forensics, I had submitted in past, and they shot it down because they thought I would not be able to do justice to it in 2 sessions. I had submitted a half-day session for it, 3.5 hours. And it was shot down saying that, oh, we don't think you can do it, whereas I've already done it 20 times now, in 3 hours, so I don't know.
So I'll make the suggestion.
No,
I would
please
like
go
to
ahead,
see
and if you have, I will put this down for the Boston SQL Saturday.
Well, this is DC.
Yeah, I know.
Here, right here.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
so next time. I did put it down here, so,
Yeah?
yeah, I did.
I'll mention it to Matt and Chris.
Yeah, sure.
Interest, at least one person's interested.
So there are 2 parts in my database forensics class, so just so that you don't know. The one is the digital forensics, where I basically lay down the foundation that will help you carry out your database forensics. Okay? But if you want, we can totally skip out on the digital forensics, and then a lot of it will be like a thing coming out of the left field for you. And when I start talking about 4th Amendment in your database forensics, you'll say, what's he talking about? So that's why we need 2 sessions, and maybe we can have 2 pre-con sessions next time around.
So, do you live in the DC metro area?
No, sir, Boston.
Well, you can come
Great
here.
Bears. Celtics, Red Sox. And what do I do? For you, Scott, my dear friend, can I give you this? Thank you so much. And what I'll do is I'll upload this on the events website, and you can go ahead and download it and just use it as a template.